There's a company that produces more revenue than the GDP of Norway, that pumps enough oil every day to fill 57 Olympic swimming pools, that has operations in 60 countries, employs 62,000 people, and has been continuously profitable for longer than most countries have existed in their current form. ExxonMobil, the most consistently powerful energy company in human history, the descendant of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil, broken up by the US government in 1911 for being too powerful, then quietly reassembled into something larger over the following century. Here's what nobody tells you about working inside it. From the bottom of the org chart to the top, every level, every number, every moment where the scale of what you're part of becomes impossible to ignore. Level 1, the entry-level engineer. 22 years old, $95,000 base. You just joined a company older than your great-grandparents. You graduated with a petroleum engineering degree from Texas A&M or UT Austin or Colorado School of Mines. Your GPA was 3.6. You interviewed through campus recruiting. The offer letter arrived in October of your senior year. $95,000 base, $15,000 signing bonus, full relocation to Houston. Your friends in tech got $130,000 at Google. You went to Exxon anyway. Partly for the stability, ExxonMobil has never missed a dividend payment in over 40 years through recessions, oil crashes, and a global pandemic that reduced energy demand by 9% overnight. Partly for the scale, and partly because something about working on problems measured in millions of barrels felt more real than working on problems measured in user engagement metrics. Your first week is orientation in Spring, Texas, ExxonMobil's 385-acre corporate campus north of Houston. The campus has its own zip code, its own fire department, a fitness center larger than your college's entire student union. You receive a 200-page employee handbook and a laptop and a badge and a mentor who has been with the company for 22 years and still refers to it as ESSO occasionally out of habit. Your actual job title is process engineer. Your actual job is optimizing the throughput efficiency of a refinery unit in Baytown, Texas, the largest refinery complex in the United States, processing 560,000 barrels of crude oil per day. To put that number in human terms, 560,000 barrels is enough refined product to fuel every car in the state of Texas for 4 days. Every single day, this one facility produces that volume. You are responsible for making sure 3% of it moves 2% more efficiently than it did last quarter. The work is not glamorous. It is precise, analytical, and consequential in ways that are invisible until something goes wrong, at which point the consequences become visible to everyone simultaneously. You learn this on month 4, when a valve miscalibration in your unit causes an unplanned shutdown that costs the facility $2.3 million in lost production over 11 hours. The root cause analysis takes 3 weeks. Your name is in the report, not as the person who caused it, as the person who identified the upstream indicator that should have been caught earlier. Your manager reads the report. He says, "Good catch. Late, but good." That's the ExxonMobil version of a performance review at entry level. You write it down. You don't make the same mistake again. Level 2, the senior engineer. 28 years old, $135,000 base. You've been to 4 countries. 2 of them didn't have running water. ExxonMobil operates in 60 countries. By your 6th year, you have worked in 3 of them. Papua New Guinea for a natural gas project, Rotterdam for a refinery optimization, a 6-month rotation in Guyana, where ExxonMobil made the largest oil discovery of the 21st century, 11 billion barrels of recoverable reserves off the coast of a country whose entire GDP was smaller than Exxon's quarterly profit. The Guyana rotation is where the scale of this company becomes physically real in a way that org charts and revenue numbers can't convey. You are standing on a floating production platform 120 miles offshore, in water 5,000 feet deep, on a structure that cost $9 billion to build and produces 220,000 barrels per day. And the nearest land is a country that didn't have a functioning oil industry 5 years ago, and now has the fastest growing economy in the Western Hemisphere because of the specific patch of ocean you're standing above. You are 28 years old, and you are part of this. Not leading it, not owning it, but your calculations are in the production optimization model. Your recommendations are in the operating procedures. The platform runs partly on decisions you made in a conference room in Houston 6 months ago. $135,000 base. Annual bonus 15 to 20% depending on company performance and individual rating. ExxonMobil's performance rating system is stock-ranked. Every year, employees are distributed across a forced curve and the bottom performers are managed out. The system is called something neutral and administrative in the HR materials. What it actually is, permanent, quantified pressure that ensures the company is always running slightly faster than comfortable. You are rated in the top quartile. You find this out not through a direct conversation, but through the size of your bonus relative to colleagues and a comment your supervisor makes in a hallway that you were meant to partially overhear. ExxonMobil delivers good news the same way every large institution does, indirectly, deniably, and slightly too late.
Level 3, the Operations Manager. 35 years old, $180,000 base. You manage people now. The technical problems were easier. You run a team of 23 engineers across 2 facilities. The transition from engineer to manager is the most disorienting professional shift in any technical career. As an engineer, your problems had solutions. Physics has answers, chemistry has answers. A process optimization problem, however complex, resolves into a number that is either better or worse than the previous number. People don't resolve into numbers. People have context and history and competing motivations and personal situations that affect their work in ways that don't appear on any dashboard. Your best engineer is going through a divorce and his error rate has tripled in 6 weeks. Your second best engineer was passed over for a promotion she deserved and is now interviewing at Chevron. Your newest hire is technically brilliant and has the interpersonal skills of a Bloomberg terminal, accurate, comprehensive, and completely indifferent to how the output lands on the person receiving it. You manage all of this while also managing upward, delivering results to a VP who communicates primarily through metrics and has the patience for context that his schedule allows, which is approximately 4 minutes per topic. ExxonMobil in 2025 is a company in visible tension with itself. The energy transition is real. Global investment in renewables exceeded fossil fuel investment for the first time in 2023. ExxonMobil's response has been characteristically ExxonMobil, methodical, capital-disciplined, and late enough to the renewable conversation that environmental advocates have opinions about it, and early enough that they've already spent $20 billion on lower carbon initiatives. You sit in planning meetings where the 10-year capital allocation model shows 85% of investment still going to oil and gas, and 15% going to carbon capture and hydrogen and biofuels. And the ratio feels simultaneously defensible and uncomfortable depending on which side of the table you're sitting on. You don't resolve this tension. Nobody at your level resolves it. You optimize your facilities, develop your people, hate your targets, and leave the philosophical questions to people whose job description includes philosophy. Level 4, the Division Superintendent. 42 years old, $260,000 total comp. You are responsible for $4 billion in assets. Your division operates refining assets with a replacement value of $4.1 billion. That number is important to understand concretely. $4.1 billion is more than the annual GDP of 35 countries. It is more capital than most financial institutions manage. It is infrastructure that, if it stopped operating tomorrow, would affect the fuel supply of 4 states within 72 hours and retail gasoline prices in a broader region within a week. You are responsible for making sure it doesn't stop operating. Not theoretically responsible, operationally, legally, personally responsible. Your name is on the safety compliance reports. Your signature is on the environmental permits. When the EPA calls with a question about emissions data from Facility 3, they call your office. The ExxonMobil safety culture is the most developed institutional safety culture in American industry, and it developed the way all safety cultures develop, through catastrophic failures that created the urgency for change. The 1989 Exxon Valdez spill, the 2010 Deepwater Horizon disaster at BP that the entire industry learned from, regardless of whose name was on the well. ExxonMobil's Operations Integrity Management System, developed after Valdez, is now the template that the global oil industry measures itself against. Every meeting at your level begins with a safety moment, not a formality, a specific recent incident from somewhere in the global operation analyzed for root cause and systemic lesson. The message is consistent and structural. The most expensive thing that can happen is not a missed production target. The most expensive thing is the event that was preventable and wasn't prevented because someone decided the risk was acceptable. You have internalized this so completely that you notice safety hazards in airports, in restaurants, in your own kitchen in ways that your family finds both reassuring and exhausting. Level 5, the Vice President. 48 years old, $1.2 million total comp. You brief government officials. You don't call it lobbying. You oversee upstream operations across 3 geographic regions. Your budget this year is $8.4 billion in capital expenditure. Your team of direct reports is 14 people. Your actual span of influence, every project, every facility, every contract that flows through your 3 regions, involves approximately 8,000 people across 12 countries. The VP level is where ExxonMobil's relationship with geopolitics becomes part of your daily work in a way that it wasn't at any previous level. Oil doesn't exist in politically neutral locations. The largest reserves on Earth are in countries with complicated governments, contested borders, and regulatory environments that change when the minister who approved your operating license gets replaced by a minister who wants to renegotiate the terms. You have sat across the table from energy ministers in 3 countries in the last 18 months. These are not sales meetings. They are relationship maintenance sessions with people who control access to resources that your company needs and who need the capital, technology, and operational expertise that your company provides. The mutual dependency is real and impermanent and requires constant management. ExxonMobil's 2024 acquisition of Pioneer Natural Resources, $60 billion, the largest energy deal in 2 decades, lands in your operational world as 850,000 additional barrels of Permian Basin production that needs to be integrated into existing infrastructure. The announcement was made from a boardroom in Irving, Texas. The operational complexity of executing it lands on people at your level and below. The announcement took 45 minutes. The integration will take 4 years. Your compensation is $1.2 million in a strong year. Base, bonus, and long-term incentive awards that vest over 3 years and are tied to total shareholder return relative to ExxonMobil's peer group. The structure is designed to align your incentives with the company's long-term performance. It works. You think about stock price in ways that would have seemed abstract at entry level and feel completely natural now.
Level 6. The Senior Vice President, 54 years old, $4 million total comp. You're in the room where the 10-year plan gets written. There are 6 senior vice presidents at ExxonMobil, 6 people below the CEO and CFO who together oversee the operational and strategic direction of a company that produces 3.7 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, employs 62,000 people, and generated $36 billion in net income last year. You are one of them. You've been with ExxonMobil for 32 years. You've worked in 7 countries. You've survived 3 oil price crashes, 2008, 2015, and the 2020 pandemic collapse, when crude briefly traded at negative $37 per barrel, meaning producers were paying people to take oil off their hands because there was nowhere left to store it. You've watched competitors make aggressive bets on the energy transition and then quietly write down those investments when the economics didn't materialize on the promised timeline. You've made capital allocation decisions that paid off and ones that didn't, and the ones that didn't are in the annual report with your fingerprints on them permanently. The energy transition question is no longer philosophical at this level. It is a capital allocation question with a 30-year time horizon and incomplete information and $400 billion in existing fossil fuel assets that generate the cash flow that funds everything else. ExxonMobil's bet, articulated clearly in its investor presentations and not articulated at all in its operational culture, is that hydrocarbons remain the dominant energy source through 2050, that carbon capture at scale is the bridge technology, and that the companies that maintain production discipline through the transition will be the ones that survive it. You believe this, not because you were told to, because 32 years of watching energy markets has given you a specific form of pattern recognition that makes the alternative scenarios look optimistic in ways that energy history doesn't support. You could be wrong. The uncertainty is real, but uncertainty has always been the operating condition of this industry, and the response has always been the same: disciplined capital allocation, operational excellence, and the patience to be right on a timeline longer than a quarterly earnings call. Closing. The machine that runs the world. Somewhere in the Permian Basin tonight, a drilling rig is operating at 2 a.m. in temperatures that hit 104 at noon and 61 at midnight. The crew has been on rotation for 14 days. They will be on rotation for 14 more. They are extracting crude from shale rock 2 miles underground using horizontal drilling technology that didn't exist 20 years ago, making the United States the largest oil producer in the history of the world. The crude they extract will become the gasoline in your car, the jet fuel in your flight, the plastic in your phone case, the fertilizer in your food supply. The global economy runs on 100 million barrels of oil per day. ExxonMobil produces 3.7 of them. And somewhere on a university campus right now, a petroleum engineering junior is sitting in a career fair booth across from an ExxonMobil recruiter. The recruiter is explaining the rotational program, the international opportunities, the stability of a company that has operated continuously for 140 years. The junior is thinking about the signing bonus, about Houston versus San Francisco, about whether oil is the future or the past, and whether that question matters more than the quality of the work. She'll take the offer. The work is real. The scale is real. The problems are genuinely hard. And somewhere in the back of her mind is the same thought that brought every engineer before her through that door. There is something specific about working on problems that move the world. The rig doesn't stop. The crude doesn't stop. The machine that runs on both of them doesn't stop either. It just gets new engineers who haven't learned what running the world actually costs. They always find out. It always takes longer than they expected.